I've set my red Bugs 3 up the same way as the Bugs 6 that I've just lost, with Expo DR on all the controls apart from keeping the throttle simple. Slight difference is that although I've got 100% Expo 35 and 100% on the bottom switch, I've set it to 50% on the middle switch A1, but I've set it to only 30% on the top switch. The idea is to smooth the turns. We'll see how it goes. I'm using the top off my original Bugs 3, which is a little bit battered, because I've stuck the little cube camera, the SQ12 on the top, because the idea today is to try and fly low. The restricted rudder should make for smoother turns. What I didn't count on was the wind steadily coming up as I flew. But anyway, that's why the top of this Bugs looks a bit rough. In fact, I realised for low flying anything that's a bit tricky, I should use my original Bugs 3 because it's a bit battered. It's on its second lower body, and leave the red one and the other newer black one in reasonable condition for when I'm doing high-level photography. So what I'm finding out straight away is, because of the wind, it's hard to tell whether the rudder's too stiff or whether it's still tracking pretty well in the wind. It's still a lot of fun flying, but it's taken me a little while to get the feel of it. In fact, what I'm finding is a sort of slingshot effect. If I'm at an angle to the wing, the thing picks up speed at an incredible rate, and as you'll see shortly, the first time round I underestimated the power of the wind. And what's coming up convinced me that maybe I should be doing this sort of stuff with my oldest, most expendable Bugs. So here we go. Yes. So the little camera flipped off. It was just stuck on with a bit of two-sided foam. It just flicked off about a couple of feet away, so I was alright. This time I've got the camera held on with a couple of rubber bands, but the wind's starting to come up a bit already. And I neglected to take a little bit of grass off the nose from that first stack. But at this point I'm flying directly into the wind and I'm holding a fairly smooth line. This is where I've turned and the wind's kind of behind me, a slight angle, and this is where the whole slingshot effect really takes off. So it's really picking up pace, or not on this one actually. But let it go on that area, it can really take off. So the plan was I was going to try and use precision flying with the restricted movement on the elevator, the aileron and the rudder. I can aim the thing a bit better, so I wanted to get between trees. That wasn't a bad little pass, but I reckon in still air I can get down much lower and faster and have a lot of fun. So you can see the wind just sort of blowing around sideways there. I just don't have the same control. Also pops it up a bit high. And you're also seeing a fair amount of jello. That again is the wind effect, because when it's not fighting the wind, it's reasonably smooth. So this little cube camera it's a pretty good effort, particularly for the price of it. It's nowhere near the quality of the Y1 Lite that I normally use for cinematic, but I wanted a little expendable camera up on top of the canopy, so if I stacked it I wasn't wiping out what to me is a reasonably expensive camera to hang on a drone. I mean, hey, it's not up there with the GoPro 7 Black, but generally I'm pretty happy with what I get from the Y1 Lite. So that was a fairly low pass, as my observer mentioned to me later. So I thought this would be a fun field to fly with all the trees, but with the breeze and maybe the settings, I just wasn't getting down as low as I hoped to. But any chance to fly is to be taken. And I knew it was still a bit windy, but I got sick of waiting for the wind to die down too much. So again, a straight run into the wind. It's getting reasonably low between the trees. Popping up again as the wind grabs it. The magic thing about this park is we never see anybody else here, just the odd dog walk in the distance. But in terms of a place where you can have a bit of a fly without any hassles, it's hard to beat. So I'm coming in for a battery changeover. I tend to run batteries 5 to 7 minutes, particularly if there's a bit of a breeze. I could probably get a little longer, but I try to avoid surprises. Once again, the camera popped off on landing. And have a look at that tree, you'll see that it's starting to move a bit more than it was on the first flight. Starting to realise with close pass on trees, particularly big trees, if it's at all gusty, you can be very unlucky. So a slow pass for the camera. Fast run into the wind. There's that slingshot effect. The wind behind at a bit of an angle, it really picks up speed. And I managed to dive between a couple of trees, but that's the sort of thing I wanted to do all the time, and without such a lineup. Again into the wind, starting to vibrate like crazy, or jello effect like crazy. Again, I think it's because at this stage the wind's come up quite a bit and it's gusting as well. And bearing off the wind, and the video smooths out again. Back into the wind. And also pushed up higher. This is all good practice after losing the Bug 6 in the forest. Okay. Pulling it down a bit lower now. Again, the slingshot effect. And you see it popping up in the air when I take the throttle off. Just remember to pull a bit of grass off the nose after the last landing. But I think I'll have to wait for calm conditions to decide whether I've got too extreme a setting on the rudder, and that's the pass between the trees that I wanted to do a lot more of, and possibly even lower than that. Okay, getting ready to call it a day. And another landing that flicks the camera off on one direction. Don't know why, but that was fun.